Good morning, everyone. My name is Meenu Suneja. The topic that I present today is for grade 1, sink or float. The common code standards which I used for this lesson are standard 1.0, skills and processes where they construct knowledge and apply evidence in reasoning. 1.1 B1 for questioning, observing and seeking answers. 1.2 A1 describing physical properties of objects. The learning targets for this lesson are students should be able to classify objects and express thoughts on why certain objects sink and float. The lesson will provide practice categorizing a variety of objects. Students will develop process skills in observing, questioning, predicting, interpreting, and communicating. To assess the students, teacher will bring in a variety of toys that can be placed in water. The toys can be of plastic, rubber, metal, the things which you use in the classroom, even they can bring from their home as well. Students will be classifying objects according to whether they sink or float. Then they will be able to devise their own ideas about physical properties and shall be able to categorize objects using the activity sheet. The vocabulary and academic language as per EDTPA guide which is used for this lesson are sink, object that gradually go towards lower level, float, the objects which remain suspended within or on the surface, sort, a group of objects with same character or kind, predict, to tell about, especially on the basis of special knowledge. The objective of this lesson for grade 1, which I chose, the students will predict which objects sink or float in water. Like you can see here, it's a large tub in between. All the students, they are observing it, and they will observe, describe, and keep records about objects when placed in water. For recording, they will be each given an activity sheet which they have to fill side by side. The outcomes of the lesson will be at the end of the lesson, the student will be able to express their thoughts on why the object sinks or the float. This is the activity sheet. There are 2-3 types of activity sheet. It's their wish, which one they want to do. Like this one, what do you think will float? They can name the object or just put the object there, and they can just make a smiley face and a sad face. If it's smiley face, that means it floats. If it's a sad face, that means it sinks. Or they can, if they are not able to write, then they can just draw a line in between and differentiate by keeping the objects on the side. Like these plastics and the crayons which sink, they keep on this side, and the objects that float, they can keep on right hand side. They will be able to categorize objects using an activity sheet, this type. They have an opportunity to work in team. This way they develop the skill of working in teamwork. They use online activity to enhance learning. There are so many websites where they can use the activity, and this way they can enhance their learning. For prior knowledge in the classroom to know whether the kids are aware of sink or float, teachers shall read the book Who Sank the Boat by Pamela Allen. It's a very interesting book. Using questioning techniques throughout the book to maintain students' interest. Teacher will ask various questions in between, and in this way it makes the students interested in that activity. Then briefly introduce the term sink or float, and the teacher then introduces a PowerPoint presentation about floating and sinking. Now the main procedure, for the procedure, teacher will read the book Who Sank the Boat by Pamela Allen. Then she will introduce the experiment by saying, today we will be experimenting with a variety of objects that either sink or float. She will place a large tub in front of the students and review definition of sink and float. She will be asking various questions. She will place the objects in tub and ask students the following questions. What does it mean if the object is at the top or if it is at the bottom? What does it mean to float? What does it mean to sink? Each student gets turn to use one object at a time and make observation on activity sheet provided. As the students are making predictions, the teacher shall walk around and observe the students, and if any student is facing any problem, she can help it out. Students will use activity sheet to write their observation once they are done, once they get the object and they try it, and then they have to use the activity sheet to note down their observation. At the end, teacher will ask their observation and write on the whiteboard in front of the classroom. These are the materials and the resources which we used for this activity. This is the tub to see filled with water whether the objects will sink or float. These are the objects which we used. This is the activity sheet which the students are going to use. They can have different kinds of the sheets, whichever way they want to use it. This is the book I used for this lesson, Who Sank the Boat by Pamela Allen. The computer to present the presentation. This is the whiteboard where teacher will write at the end which object float and which object sank. This is the presentation. To manage the classroom, the teacher will set certain rules in beginning of experiment. Each child gets one object and they wait for their turn. They are supposed to not splash the water. If they follow the rules, teacher gives them another object of their own choice. She will put on mark on some children in case they spill water, and they are also instructed to alert the teacher of any spills as to prevent any slip or fall accidents. During the lesson, each student records the data using their knowledge which item sank and which item floated. The teacher will ask various questions throughout the lesson to ensure the students are beginning to understand why some objects sink and why some objects floats. This is how they are doing it. They can do side by side also, or they can do at the end of the activity. Like they can use crayons, they can use marker, or they can use anything. They can just place the objects by drawing the line in between, put the objects on one side which sink and put the objects on one side that float. This activity which I designed, it was for special and the regular students both. To ensure maximum benefits to the students, teacher should place students of various academic skills and abilities within the groups. Children with special needs will also be able to fully participate in the activity by feeling the objects. If they are not able to write it, at least they can feel it. They can put their hands in and see and observe whether the object is floating or sinking. And if they are scared of water, they can just observe it. Like here, this boy, he's just observing it. They can at least touch the water and having extra help from the teacher to fully understand the meaning of the lesson. For the assessment, before activity, teacher shall read the book, as I told you, and show PowerPoint presentation. Then teacher will use questioning techniques in between to let students create their interest. If there is no book, then teacher can brainstorm on what is mean to sink or float. She can ask students some questions and describe things that they have seen which sinks or which floats. Like she can show the pencil which she is holding in the hand and ask the students whether it's going to sink or float, and then they can see it by putting the pencil into the tub. For pre-assessment, she introduces large tub of water and show them which objects sink or float. For informal formative assessment, she will ask questions throughout the activity to ensure students are beginning to understand the concept of sink or float. For formal formative assessment, teacher will use various activities which they can have. There are different websites to assess what students learned. At the end, students will have to recognize whether the object floated or sunk and the reason why this happened. If they are able to tell, I mean, it's only grade 1, so maybe they are not aware of the reason, but at least they can tell by weight, not the density. This will assess the students' learning from the experiment. This can be the activity sheet if they want. They can just, this is a through website. They have to just drag it and pull it here. Like if it's a ping pong ball, if it sinks, they can just drag it and put here in the sink. So this way they can do individually on the computer the activity after they are done with the activity in the classroom. Teacher uses the whiteboard to make chart which objects sink and which object float. She can use this website, and there are other various websites available where students can learn. The end result will be students' activity sheet. This is another type of activity sheet which they can do if they are able to write. If they are on the higher side, they can write it down, the name of the objects, and instead of this they can just write, okay, it sink or it float. They can draw the circle, or if they want they can write it sink or float, and this is their reaction, how they learned it. That means they enjoyed the lesson. Thank you.